So the LWP campaign that we did was in 2015. And it was a time when the property market was really down. People were sitting on the fence and not looking to buy land and build new homes. So we made the decision that we really needed to do something different and something that would engage people and excite people to consider buying land again. So LWP is a WA-based property developer, and their motto is bringing communities to life. So we really wanted to do that in an experiential campaign, and what we really were looking for was the communities and the places where people lived and the people that lived in our communities to really share what living in an LW community was about. So encouraging people to participate in this, I guess, unique little stunt that we did was absolutely at the forefront of our thinking, and it worked really, really well. I think one of the keys is you have to create some kind of emotional connection with the audiences that you're trying to reach or the people that you want to participate in what you're doing. So that could be something that excites them, intrigues them. It actually might be something that makes them, feel a sad connection to what they're doing and they want to be part of it or share it. I also think you have to give them a really sort of clear way of being involved. So whether that's you leading the conversation, being part of the conversation, helping facilitate the conversation, and giving them clear instructions on how they can be part of it. Things like hashtags to kind of frame that conversation together and get people involved in one spot where everyone can be part of it also is really important. But I think coming up with that idea or the event or whatever it may be that creates that emotional connection with the audience and their desire to participate and be part of it is probably the number one and often the hardest one to do as well. I think you don't necessarily need a huge amount of money to encourage participation. I think you just need a good idea that reaches the people that you want to be involved. So think about what motivates them and how they can be part of what it is you're doing. So, in this case study, we knew that we had people living in an LWP community that loved where they lived, and what we wanted to do was just give them a little taste in a really sort of obvious way about how we bring communities to life in this particular case study. So yes, we came up with this activation event, which obviously had a reasonable cost behind it, but it was a lot of the things that flowed on after that, and it was just little things that we did afterwards that had just as big an impact, asking people and encouraging the conversation online around why they loved where they lived. And people, because they were so proud of what they were doing, they were more than happy to share that. So I guess find that thing that makes someone want to be involved and participate in what you're doing, create that emotional connection with them, and then give them a platform to do it. So I'm always an advocate of making sure you're part of the conversation, be listening and look for key influencers, people that are already generating that conversation for you, get them on board with what you're doing, let them know you're there, and be part of it. I think probably the biggest and the first point is listening and monitoring, particularly in the online space. We've got so many tools where we can just listen, monitor, see what's trending, see what the conversation is online. So I think do that in the first instance. And often from there, you'll also be able to find some key influencers that might be, the most vocal about you and your company and what's going on. And then be part of that conversation. I think in the online space, one of the great things is that often people can be a little hesitant to get involved and be part of it because they're always worried, what if someone said something horrible about me? How do we control that? Whereas, my answer always is that chances are those conversations are happening anyway. The great thing about the online space is that you can listen, you know about it, you can be part of it. So I think that's definitely, it's just that initial listening, monitoring phase, then being part of the conversation, being open and being available as well. I think probably one of the best in recent history, which most people all over the globe will be aware of, was the ALS Ice Bucket Challenge. Probably a lot of people got involved in that themselves. I think what made that really successful was, a host of reasons, but one of them was, it was a serious cause. It was a serious charity. So people felt that they were doing something good, which was very important. But I think the fact that it was something a bit fun, people were also encouraged to involve other people once they'd done the challenge. So part of the challenge was to nominate others. So it had that immediate viral effect. I think people loved seeing their friends dose themselves in a cold, icy bucket of water. And I also think they were very clever in their campaign. In the early stages, they got a lot of, high-profile influencers behind it. So I think one of the reasons why it was so successful on a platform like Facebook was because Mark Zuckerberg himself did it in the early days. So I think with that challenge as well, they engaged some very high-profile influencers early on, which just made it fly. I think that's probably a really great example that a lot of people are aware of too.